Ryan here with Prudential Pest Solutions. In this video, I'm going to show you how we identified, eradicated, treated, and removed this yellow jacket nest that we found in this wall. So this client here, and this was in Oxford, Pennsylvania, was hearing scratching in her walls and her ceiling, and she thought, oh, I must have mice. She placed a bunch of mouse bait, a bunch of mouse traps in her attic to no avail. So when I got there, and as I'm walking up to the front porch, I see all these yellow jackets going under a roof line. So right away, my thought was, this isn't rodents or squirrels or raccoons in our attic. I'll bet you this is yellow jackets. So we went upstairs in the hallway. This was before I suited up here. And I found a really soft spot in the wall. We could hear the yellow jackets right behind that. So what I'm doing here is, before we start any treatment, we need to prep. So I shut all the doors, because if the yellow jackets just come through the wall, we want to make sure that we isolate it just to that area here. I don't want yellow jackets flying all throughout the house. So we're looking for the wet spot, and boom, look, you can even see the silhouette of a circle there. Well, somewhat of a circle. You can see how soft that is. I could put my finger right through it if I wanted. So that's where the nest is. It's behind that wall. And this wall, the other side of this wall is the stairwell going up that you saw me walking up the steps. So I have a little tarp here because whenever you remove a yellow jacket or a hornet nest, you know, a lot of dead insects are going to come out. And also, which makes more of a mess, is all the larvae inside of the nest. It's gooey, it's wet, there's a lot of moisture in there, and they have some nice carpeting here. So, you know, just as a professional, we always try to just prep and protect the floor area, and then we also have our vacuum that we're going to be able to clean everything up, because we're going to leave their house cleaner than when we got there. So I'm just going to grab my PTPI, which is my quick kill aerosol that BASF makes. It's a great product. It permeates that whole void and it kills them almost instantly. And I have a little drywall saw here, which I don't really need, but it just helps to make a nice little puncture here in the wall. Now, I don't want to make a huge hole right away because I don't want just 1,000 yellow jackets coming out. Just enough that I can get my PTPI applicator into that wall void and start injecting some of the aerosol. Now, what's nice is when they're in the wall like this, is that we can inject that aerosol directly into the wall. So we're not filling this house up with you know, chemical or anything like that. We're isolating the chemical in the application directly to the nest, which is right behind that wet spot. Now, what was also interesting about this during our initial inspection was there was an actual wet spot above the ceiling, right above this, which was caused from a water leak. You can see the outline of that, really, if you couldn't already see it, that damaged drywall there. So the wet spot was above that ceiling, and at first glance, when you're thinking yellow jackets, you're thinking, hey, that's got to be where the nest is. But when I touched the ceiling, it was still firm. That drywall was still intact. Then I looked to my left, and we found this soft spot. And when I say soft, I mean the only thing that's holding that little circle together there that I outlined with my glove is the paint. That's the only thing. They've whittled and chewed away that drywall, which is supposed to be a 1/2 inch thick. So we've applied some PTPI. And you can really hear the nest come alive if I had the audio on for that. And all I'm doing is I'm taking that drywall saw, and again, I could have used my finger just to move this, but the drywall saw is just kind of built for this. So I'm just going to remove some of this wet spot here, just so I can get access to the nest. Now, one thing we're going to want to do is, and we can see some yellow jackets coming out, they're dead, is I don't want to cause any more damage than is necessary, because to be honest with you, I'm not going to be the one that repairs the drywall. And also, it's not my house. And I always try to do work at other people's houses what I would want at my house. So I'm not going to put a big 4-foot hole in their drywall and in their wall if we don't need to. So I'm just going to remove the damaged part of the drywall just to gain access to the nest. And then eventually we're going to remove the nest and then put some tape over it just to seal it up. So you can see we're just peeling it back. And really, it was quite impressive, this nest here, because it was really stacked in there quite nicely. You're going to see here, you see how thin that drywall, I mean, that's supposed to be 1/2 inch thick, and that is just paint holding that together. That's just, it's impressive to me. So there's some good shot of the side of the nest, and here's a close-up picture of it, so we can see it's 6+ layers deep. So we're still going to have yellow jackets, and granted, it goes to the left, to the right, up and down from there too. So it's not just, this is just where the yellow jacket, the heart of the nest, I guess you could call it, and where they were chewing the drywall out. So we can still hear buzzing in there, which is why I'm going to just keep applying the PTPI into different areas, the aerosol. And again, since we're doing it right into the wall void, we don't really have to worry about it coming into the house at all. And also, this chemical, this product doesn't have any residual. So it's really good for the folks that are maybe chemical sensitive. Number one, the chemical's not coming into the house. And two, there's not going to be any left over. Now I did a little spritz right there just because some fly out. There was a light right behind me. And when yellow jackets come into the house, especially when you've opened up the wall like that, they're typically going to go right for a window or right for a light source. So a lot of times I have my headlamp on or a flashlight on, and they tend to go right for that. Not because they're upset with me, even though they should be, that we're just destroyed their whole entire family and home. But it's more like they're going right towards the light trying to get out. So I'm just going to peel this out. You can see just all the larvae kind of coming out there. Again, really gooey, really messy. That's why we have that tarp sitting there. And I usually just drop everything on the tarp. You see a little bit of daylight through the wall. That's the other side of the wall. That would go on to where the stairs were when we were first walking up. So again, even though they hadn't broken through this side of the wall, they had broken through the other side. So within, you could say a day, a week, they would have had quite a lot of yellow jackets in the home there. Maybe that's one of those things where they come home from work and, there's hundreds, maybe thousands of yellow jackets in the house, all at the windows trying to get out because they came through the wall. So that's never what you want to come home to. So we're just going to remove all the nests. You see I'm just sticking my arm up there. We want to go to the left, to the right, up and down, just making sure we have all the gooey part of the nest out of there. Now, inevitably, there's going to be some yellow jackets that fall all the way down to the ground, inside of the wall void, the wall cavity. I'm not as concerned about getting them. We don't need to cause. I don't think the benefit of removing some dead yellow jackets out of the wall is worth ripping more of the drywall out. So the main thing that causes damage, causes mold or some of the moisture issues is going to be the nest itself, that larva, which is just like I said, just gooey little larva guys in there. That's what we got to get out of there. So we're just going to make sure we have everything out. Now, once everything's out of there, we're going to inspect the area inside, and then we're going to apply, in this case, we applied a Bayer product called Tempo Dust into the area, which is a longer lasting, has a residual, but you can see I pulled some of the insulation down just to make sure we had all the comb out of there. Just a blocking agent, and it'll last a lot longer than that aerosol ever would. And again, since we're trapping it inside of the wall, we don't really need to worry about any contact with people. So once I move that insulation, I'll just give it a couple more spritzes of the aerosol just to make sure we covered all the areas in that wall void and that wall cavity. What was really fascinating to me is because this is one of the few times where the nest that we got out, a lot of times we get these nests out of walls or out of ceilings, but it's not like an interior wall like this. And what's really fascinating about this is that, and I think we're going to have a close-up here in a second, or a couple seconds, I should say, but we can actually see the damage done to the other side of the drywall, because all we usually see is just the really soft spot, the really soft spot that I just injected into and removed. And in this case, we're able to see the back side of that. So we can really see how they hollowed, whittled, and chewed it out. And just why it's so common for folks to get, when they have a nest in the house, to get yellow jackets in the house, because they just break right through this very brittle and thin layer of paint. That's the only thing that's holding that section of wall behind the nest there. So we can see that's the little light hole right in the middle is going into the interior of the house, and that really white area inside is where they've whittled it out. So the darker area around it is the 1/2-inch drywall. And then they've just kind of chewed it all the way to the middle to that light source there, and that's where it's just been thinning out. And it's kind of tough to see in the camera. I was really trying to do my best here to get a good sense of the depth in which they chewed through the drywall, but it's kind of tough to tell in a dark cavity like that how much they had chewed through. But I mean, you could have just put your finger right through that whole wall. So like I said, the last section here is I just have my flashlight out. We're just inspecting, making sure everything's out of there. We don't want to leave anything behind. You'd be surprised how many times we get called in after another company has been out to do a treatment for yellow jackets, because the homeowner will say, hey, I'm still hearing buzzing in the wall. And if the eradication and the treatment is done correctly, that wall should be silent. There shouldn't be anything in there. I mean, you may have one or two occasional yellow jackets that were already out foraging come back to the nest area, but it should be almost silent. And a lot of times, we'll have a stethoscope or we'll put our ear right up there just to make sure of it. But that's why we do that final inspection before we do the long-term residual dust, and then eventually we'll close it up with tape. So just a little bit more aerosol just to be absolutely certain, because we don't ever leave a job unless we're absolutely certain it's been treated and treated completely. So this job was kind of neat for two different reasons. One, because it was an interior wall, so we could see both sides of the wall. We could see the damage to the other side, which is just, I don't know, fascinating to me. This was also my first yellow jacket treatment that with our GoPro camera here that I have attached to my helmet, which is why you'll see the top of my B-veil there, which has really freed up my hands so that I can complete the task a little bit easier, have a little bit better audio and video quality here as we do these jobs. So there's the dust going in, and another job well done. We'll get that taped off. So the bottom line is this client thought they had mice or something in the ceiling and in the wall, and it turned out it was yellow jackets. And they called the professionals. They Googled yellow jacket expert, and we were the first ones that come up. So we're Prudential Pest Solutions. We're experts at removing yellow jacket and wasp nests. And if you live in southeastern or south central Pennsylvania and you have a pest issue, I would love to be your pest exterminator. So give us a call at 484-401-4361. And remember, if you want to see our videos, make sure you slam that subscribe button, because I love putting the cool jobs that we do and the problems that we solve up on our feed.